Alright, you saw Crossbones, you saw Red Skull, but Kingpin just is not satisfied, and he has come out of the shadows himself, and this is the case study of the crime lord. Now, Kingpin has seen everything. He knows when you call him Midpin. He has connections everywhere. So he is furious, and he wants to prove to you why he is still the kingpin of crime. So here we have Battlegrounds, and you won't see much of Battlegrounds in this video because Kingpin just does not value it at all. He thinks the people that are running around Battlegrounds are just irrelevant. He thinks that the girl with the bow and arrow and the guy with the dumb helmet are beneath him, and he just doesn't bother with this. So yeah, he doesn't really want to do Battlegrounds, but whenever he has to do it, he's putting up pretty good numbers, he's doing pretty good damage, and he has pretty great utility for any debuff matchup. So yeah, this right here was a 55-second takedown of Iceman, not too shabby. But now we have the real question: how did Kingpin become the kingpin of crime? Well, he was the king of questing for a good chunk of time. And back when he really reigned supreme, questing was the biggest thing. Like, you always valued like questing characters first, and Kingpin, with how sustainable he just was that guy. And because he was so sustainable, he was great for Alliance War, and he was great for Alliance Quest as well. And when fight time wasn't as much of a factor in Battlegrounds, he was such a safe attacker there as well. And additionally, he could cheese any debuff nodes big time, and he's also really good because of his Black ISO 8 debuff, which can just straight up shut off abilities, and it is honestly really helpful for most nodes in this game. So Kingpin has always had a very good kit, and the fact that he was so sustainable just made him such a questing machine. And like I said, during his reign of terror, questing was essentially everything. You had 8.2, you had 8.1, and with like Battlegrounds being a safety first type of game mode, he was just so dominant there as well, since he always finished with a full yellow bar. So yeah, Kingpin's kit, his survivability, just everything about him just made him have this stronghold on the contest for a while. And let's check out some gameplay that proves these points. Now, here we have this energy adoption ice and I believe lightning. So things are gonna go, they're gonna go pretty crazy here, because yeah, there's gonna be a lot of debuffs that get inflicted onto Kingpin. And what happens is he gets overpowered, he goes crazy, and then the damage output is just absurd. Like, genuinely so absurd. And yeah, the fight is already done basically. So yeah, 37,000 light attack, sure, why not? And that was a 20-something second fight in Act 7. Pretty good stuff there. Now we have this beast fight, and this one is just as crazy because it's on the same path. And yeah, this is just a common Kingpin debuff matchup. Like, of course, other debuff matchups won't have like this many debuffs, but it's still gonna be pretty similar in like the result, where they just get obliterated and he just, you know, finishes with a full yellow bar. It is fantastic stuff, and this is why he was such a questing machine for the longest time. And yeah, to be honest, whenever there are debuffs involved in, like, you know, Alliance War and stuff, and even a Battlegrounds meta in 2024, he'll still be good. Like, he will still be a really strong option for those metas. Like, for example, in week 3 and 4, there's going to be this chaos node where debuffs will be inflicted all the time, and Kingpin could very well work there. And I want to see like how he does in Battlegrounds. I know that he doesn't like Battlegrounds anymore because whoever's, like, you know, running shop there is just irrelevant to him. But yeah, while I was talking though, like, that fight just ended that quickly. It's insane stuff. And yeah, I want to see how he does in that Battlegrounds meta though. But now we have this Diablo fight, and this is like showing how good his just regen is. His regen rate is actually reduced by 50% at base, but nothing else can interrupt it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and like with like questing and everything, of course you want to have a champion that can heal up a bit, and KINGPIN, he can start at like 20%, finish a full yellow bar, and it's just as simple as that for him. It's really nice stuff. And he's also a great DPS for these skill lanes. Like, look at this damage output. It's really nice. Here I get a 19,000 medium, not too shabby. Here he drops the SP2, and yeah, we're looking pretty good now. We go back in, get the intercept, and this one is a wrap, I think. Yeah, it should be. There we go, 16,000 medium, not too shabby. Now we have, let's see, this Venom Pool fight, same path and everything. And yeah, the health gain was pretty good from that Diablo fight. It was actually very, very good. And yeah, now this Venom Pool shouldn't be too bad either. But then again, I don't like Venom. I don't like fighting the Venoms because like their animations are so annoying to deal with. But here I go for a parry, drop the heavy attack. And you know, the belly bump is one of the most satisfying things ever in this game. I just love it so much, especially when like you can properly use it. There I get hit, it's fine, we're still looking pretty good here. Get the intercept, 16,000 mediums, or light attack, sorry. And here we go for a heavy attack, charge it up, just charge up the belly bump, so satisfying. And yeah, here we go for the stun from the Cage Rattler node. We go back in, 24,000 medium, drop the SP2, and no crits, but there's one issue, I guess, with KINGPIN. With him fighting 7 stars now, you just can't really expect the crits, if that makes any sense, because challenger rating and his base crit rate being so low, it's just like something that you can't go in expecting, and you know, that's understandable, right? But here I drop the SP2, knock him down, and drop the relic, and that does it. Some pretty nasty relic hits there as well. But the feud has exploded. You saw that Joe Fixit was with KINGPIN throughout this whole entire video. Not anymore. The feud is gone. KINGPIN has always viewed him as competition. That's why the synergy is called competition. And this is it, man. He had his chance, but you only have one shot with the KINGPIN in crime, and if you mess that up, then I'm sorry, Joe Fixit, but it's just over for you. So now we have this feud exploding. We have Joe Fixit versus KINGPIN, and it's pretty obvious that KINGPIN has the advantage here. He is a skill character, Joe Fixit is science, and Joe Fixit actually does inflict debuffs all the time. So yeah, it's going to be very hard for Joe Fixit to do anything in this fight. However, he does have some notes to help him. He has cramping, where like whenever a weakness is applied to KINGPIN, he will get power drained and like degen. But here's the cool part: KINGPIN, he can still purify without Joe Fixit, and while it's a like lower chance, it still is a very, very high chance for it to happen. So it really is no big deal for KINGPIN. He's going to be just fine here. Here Joe Fixit drops the SP2. There's the weakness, but then it gets purified immediately, so there we go. And yeah, like that's just KINGPIN for you, man. So reliable at these type of things. Here we go for the SP2 in a second, and hopefully a crit. A nice 40,000 plus crit right there, and this matchup is just going so well for us, or for KINGPIN, sorry. Yeah, this is his battle, this is his video. Might be my channel, but it's not my video. But here he is trying to bout the SP2, and it's not going too well, but you know, it's just, it'll happen eventually, I hope anyway, if Joe Fixit wants to throw it. Looks like no, but there we go, finally. Here we go back in. Should drop a heavy attack pretty soon, and he's just not playing ball, but there we just drop it anyway. Like, if we get hit, we get hit. KINGPIN, while he's charging the heavy attack, he is pretty tanky, so he doesn't take too much damage there, which is really nice. And yeah, the mediums are looking pretty good. We just got to do one more heavy attack, I'm pretty sure, and we are approaching the end of this fight, and it's looking pretty good for KINGPIN. You know, he's almost down essentially, and this should end it right here. And no crit, but it still does not matter for KINGPIN. Now we have a showcase of KINGPIN's Black ISO 8, and KINGPIN, he is like, he is the kingpin of this. Like, he has so much block ISO 8, he always wants more of it, and I get why. Like, I do get why, because it is very overpowered. So what it does is it reduces the opponent's attack rating by 50%, but it also reduces their ability accuracy by 65%. So whenever he drops that SP1 and he uses some of that ISO 8, it's for a good cause, because yeah, they just fail their abilities. This right here is ionized armor, so whenever they gain, or whenever they drop a special attack, they gain an armor up afterwards, but since Kingpin is hitting them at the time, they won't actually gain the armor up. So yeah, he is just shutting off this fight really well, and the two degens are just doing a fantastic job at just neutralizing this threat. And Sunspot is a pretty big threat, but Kingpin just does not care. And here he goes for another SP1, but it all leads to nothing. And yeah, we go for the relic here. And this fight is just so satisfying. Like, Kingpin has full control of it. And yeah, we drop the SP1. You know, when you do this rotation, the damage output isn't like super pretty, but it still is reliable and it still does get the job done. So it works for me at least, and it works for him for sure. So there we drop the SP1 one more time, and yeah, the fight is just over. Not too bad, not even a bad fight time at that. But then you have the other way of dealing with this fight. So this has the Thorns node, where whenever you hit them while they have an armor up, you get bled. And it can stack up to a pretty beefy amount of bleeds. So you have to be careful here for sure. But with Kingpin, you kind of want to stack up as many armor ups as possible, because once you do that, it is such a crazy time. And yeah, so we're going to go for that. There the bleeds are already triggering, but it's okay, because like we want that to happen. And we're gonna get the third armor up now, and look at what happens here. Oh, so I messed that up, but we dropped the SP2, 63,000 crits, a huge lag spike, but this one is just over, man. It's just wrapped up. 49,000 mediums. He is so crazy whenever there are just so many debuffs. I love it so much. And let's go back to reality, where it's like, you know, a more tame Kingpin fight. We have this safeguard matchup here, but that's insane. Like, any debuff matchup, I think Kingpin is the best for it. Like, just straight up the best for it, and that still stands to this day. Because when it comes to debuff manipulation, no one does it better than Kingpin, and that's just like a fact of life, man. Like, that's just not even bias for this video aside, it's just true. So yeah, he's honestly so fun, and like just so powerful as well in those matchups. Of course, we can talk about other matchups where like he's not that flashy, but you know, every character I think should have a use in this game, or like if they have a use, they have value in this game. And Kingpin, he will always have a use, but more on that later. So here I drop the SP1 again, and this is safeguard, by the way, but you can't tell since the node is just shut off completely with a 28,000 heavy attack. So we go back in, nice 13,000 medium, drop the SP1, and this one is a wrap, I'm pretty sure. Well, now it's a wrap, so there we go. And a very good fight time there for safeguard. Now we have She-Hulk on the same node, and yeah, this one won't be too bad either. It's very chill. It's just like, you know, get the SP1 going, then they just can't do anything really. So it's very fun. Here she drops the SP1, no big deal. And I think that Kingpin is bugged, and Kingpin's not gonna like hearing that, obviously. But so usually whenever anyone takes damage, he gains a rage, but now it's just whenever he takes damage for some reason. So yeah, Kingpin, of course he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, but he would prefer if the opponent gives him the rage, right? And so like it's a bit weird, to be honest, but like sure, he can still ramp up just fine, obviously, but I just noticed it while recording this video. But there we go for the belly bump, and it's just so satisfying, obviously. Here I drop the SP1, and yeah, pretty good damage there. She drops the SP1 herself, and I don't like how that works, but also, what is that? How does she go unstoppable right there? Like, can you explain that to me? That just does not make any sense. Is that like supposed to happen? There goes another belly bump, and yeah, this matchup is over essentially. So yeah, very fun time, very straightforward fight for Kingpin. and she is not going down without a fight, but sorry, you got belly bumped. That's crazy. But okay, let's talk about it. Is Kingpin in jeopardy? Okay, hold on. That ending to the fight was so good with the belly bump. All right, is Kingpin in jeopardy? Well, here are some reasons why he could be. So first off, Kingpin is 6-star locked, and it's a struggle punching up versus 7-star rank 3 champions in Battlegrounds. And if the opponent has a lot of debuffs, that changes obviously, but between you and me, I think Kingpin doesn't like Battlegrounds because he knows that he doesn't really do too well there against the higher up characters, and he just doesn't want to admit that. But that's what I think personally, between me and you though. And 2, Kingpin's power has been recognized, right? Plenty of nodes have tried to stop him, and he usually is like never featured in Alliance War attack tactics, so he's trying to get like, he's getting the treatment that most god tier 6-star characters are, where they're just like not featured too often. However, no matter what though, he will always have the advantage of just being the literal best when it comes to cheesing debuffs. Like, he will always have that, and that's why I think that while we're doing a case study on this character, I think the conclusion is he will just never be irrelevant. Will he always be the top skill champion? Maybe not, but when it comes to just like having value in this game, the Kingpin of crime is here to stay. Now it's time for some bosses. I've said everything that had to be said, and I think that we can just end it with some pretty crazy fights, to be honest. You know, we're gonna start small but then go to some wild fights that honestly I cannot believe that Kingpin was able to do. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. This one's a bit of a slow start though. We do get hit eventually, I think, and we get hit where, like right here, I'm pretty sure. When does it happen? There we go. We eat an SP1, but that's fine because that just builds up Kingpin and that just makes us stronger. So hey, I'll take it. Now the slow is up, so we're just chilling. We get the overpowered buff active, and so we can drop the SP2 in a second, and this damage output is going to be very, very good, and it is, so I was correct in that. But yeah, here we go for 25,000 mediums, not too shabby in the slightest. And here I just eat the hit because why not, and we like hardly take any damage because Kingpin has a massive health pool. So we drop the SP2 again, no crits, but it's fine because the rage are just building up big time. And yeah, we're just chilling in this fight. We go for the heavy attack again in a second, no crit, but it's okay. And we go for 18,000 light attacks and 32,000 mediums, and yeah, this SP2 crit is just so satisfying as well. So that was a very fun boss fight, but now we have a crazy one. And Kingpin, he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty a bit, but I think he took it a bit too far here because this is wild. This is Gauntlet Terrax, and the damage output from both of these characters is going to be absurd. So the armor breaks are fueling Kingpin, but he's also taking a ton of rock field damage as well. So it's like he needs to pick. Does he want to be safe, or does he just want to go all in and try to out damage Terrax, which very few champions can do, by the way. So I would personally try to just not risk it, but Kingpin, he does what he wants and he does not care. And he is holding up. He is doing a very good job at like just brute forcing this fight, and the damage output is just unreal. So we go for the SP2 again. We get no crits, but at this point the fight is just over. But we just go for one more SP2 bait because why not? But he is just not playing ball for some reason. There he finally drops it, and yeah, it is time for some more insanity. So we go for a combo. The armor ups are not stacking up too much yet, but that'll change in a bit, but we don't get to see it because yeah, he's down. So that was a very fun fight. That was a minute, but now we have one of the I cannot even describe how crazy this fight is. This is Gauntlet Korg, and it's a rough start. Kingpin knows that. He knows that this is the toughest challenge that Mcoc has to offer, and he wanted to take it up himself. So it's gonna be rough for him. It's not gonna be easy in the slightest. It is gonna be a pain to deal with, right? And yeah, it's like I said, it's a rough start for him. He gets hit a ton because he just doesn't know how to deal with this fight yet. But once he gets going, once KINGPIN knows what he needs to do, he's gonna crush this fight. So here we go for the SP1. It gets purified, unfortunately, which is very annoying, and that, you know, shakes up KINGPIN a bit, but it's okay because we're still in this fight. He's still in this fight. And here we go for a light attack, but it just doesn't work because of his range, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And yeah, right now we are not winning this battle at all. Like, we have lost a lot of health. We keep on losing health, and it's like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this fight? So we drop the SP1 in desperation. Does not work. I'm down to 32%. I'm not down anything. KINGPIN is down 32%. And yeah, it's just looking a bit rough for KINGPIN here. And the regen should help a bit, and the regen in this fight does save us. Like, without his regen, this would not be a solo. Straight up, it just would not be a solo. And the black iso weight is up now, but the relic cost KINGPIN, and the one opening that he had is just gone now. So yeah, here he drops the SP1. It works, it sticks the debuff, thankfully, but this is not looking good for KINGPIN at all. He is below 20% now. He is not looking too well, but there we go for the belly bump. It does okay damage, but then he blocks the SP1 again, and he is down to 5%, and I thought this was just over. Like, I was seeing KINGPIN do the fight, and I was like, is this just a wrap? And KINGPIN was like, no, it's not. I have a plan, and I was just gonna let him do it, right? Because, you know, if KINGPIN has a plan, you gotta listen to it. He is a KINGPIN in crime for a reason. And yeah, so here we go back in, or he goes back in, sorry, and he is just trying to like get something going here, I guess. And it's going pretty well now. Like, the rock stacks are like decreasing every single time. So here KINGPIN drops the SP1, and yeah, he just has the black iso weight on pretty much all the time now, which is good, and it's necessary for this fight, because if the black iso weight isn't up, Korg evades like crazy, and then it becomes a problem for KINGPIN. So here Korg drops the SP1, KINGPIN goes back in, and yeah, it's looking pretty good for him, actually. It's surprising that he's now up to, what, 12%? He is somehow managing this, and he was down to 5% while Korg was at 70% health. Keep that in mind. But here he's in danger again. He's in danger, like, big time. He's back down to 3% health, but we somehow are able to witness him just bring it back up somehow. Like, I don't know how KINGPIN is doing this. I really do not know, but you know, you just gotta trust him, right? And I'm doing that right now with this fight. So here he goes for the heavy attack. It's a nice belly bump, and he goes back in a second. The range is perfect for him. He drops the SP1. The damage output is looking pretty fine now because the rock stacks are now gone, and that is a massive thing for this fight. So KINGPIN drops the SP1 again, and yeah, it's looking like a win if he just doesn't mess it up. But KINGPIN doesn't mess things up. He is a master of his craft, and yeah, this is a masterpiece from KINGPIN himself. So he drops the SP1. It does alright damage, but the battle's won, and it ends with a belly bump, and that is just perfect to end this video as well. So KINGPIN, he's a beast still. He is still a very strong champion. Of course, there are some issues with him with like punching up in battlegrounds, but like I said, he just finds that irrelevant, and he is still a monster when it comes to debuff manipulation and just so many other things as well, to be honest. So let me know your thoughts on KINGPIN. Do you think he is falling off, or is he still just a very good champion? And yeah, that's about it for me.